Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 things I wish I had when I started homeschooling. So if you enjoy this type of content and other homeschool and lifestyle content, please remember to subscribe and let's get into it. Alright, so you probably noticed that I am filming in a different location. Our homeschool room is undergoing renovations, just like the beginning of things right now. So I am prepping walls to get painted. We're getting new flooring. We're doing LVP throughout the main floor. I've mentioned this in some other videos, but it's like starting to happen now. The LVP is being delivered tomorrow and the homeschool room I'm installing it. So that's where I'm starting, is there. And so I need to get all the walls painted and everything. It's still going to be the same color, but it just had some uneven spots. And then eventually, depending on how much it costs, we're getting a whole bunch of built-in bookshelves and some desks because we have 10-foot ceilings. And so I just have a lot of underutilized space up above. So anyway, we'll probably be up here some of the time, maybe in different locations. I've filmed like back by the bookcases before. I've done over here by my dresser before. So I'm sitting on the bed because it's like right in front of the window. And so anyways, I could film in the homeschool room. There's just nothing there. Like the walls are bare. Right now they're covered in like, not plaster, but you know, I filled in all the holes and everything. Everything needs to be sanded. I've been trying to consolidate everything. I'm going to tear out flooring. So it's kind of just a mess right now. So you'll see me in some different locations for a little while until that gets all done. So today I'm going to be sharing 5 things I wish I had when I first started homeschooling. And we're going into our 9th year of homeschooling, which is crazy to me. Sometimes it does feel like it's been forever, but other times when I say that number, I'm like, really? It's been that long already? I just can't even believe it. So a lot of these 5 things I'm sharing with you are from my personal experience, but there's also a few of them that are more observation of other situations or maybe questions people have asked or people have said to me. And so I kind of wrote them down and wanted to share some thoughts about them as well. So the first thing I wish I had when I started homeschooling was some sort of mentor. I feel like starting homeschooling can be a very daunting task, whether you're starting with just one child or multiple children. It's very, very overwhelming to know where you're supposed to start, what you're supposed to do, what curriculums are good. You know, there's so many options out there. And so just having some sort of mentor, which I feel like I sort of did. We lived in California when we started homeschooling, and I had a friend that gave me like, oh, we like this math curriculum. So that was what we used when we first started with my oldest in kindergarten. And that was fine. It wasn't my favorite, but it worked out. But I really wish I had found someone that could, you know, go step by step, sit down with me, go through their experience, maybe someone that is more experienced with homeschooling. You know, a lot of people I interacted with had just started homeschooling as well, which is why we were interacting, right? Our kids were similar ages, but sometimes it's nice to have the perspective of someone that's maybe put multiple kids through homeschooling and tried a lot of different curriculums or found something that's worked well for them, because then you can have years of experience instead of just, oh yeah, we're all just trying to start and figure this out together, which I know it's hard to try to find that person. And I now have a friend that we kind of bounce ideas off back and forth, and that eventually happens. But if you have the opportunity to find someone, maybe a more experienced homeschool mom in your community, you know, through Facebook groups or whatever, find that person. It's hard. Like, I'm not one that likes to ask for help or go out and talk to people. I'm more of an introvert. And it's just not natural to me to do that kind of stuff. But it would have been so helpful just to kind of sit down and get their perspective on what it looks like to homeschool, or get a few different perspectives. And so I could kind of evaluate what I thought would work best for our family. The second thing is scripted lessons. Basically, I wish I had known about the Good and the Beautiful from the beginning. I heard it mentioned, but I just had no idea what it even was. And I know there's other scripted lessons out there, but at first we just had the book. So this math curriculum that we had really didn't have any explanation. It was more just open it up and start doing the math. There just wasn't a whole lot of what can I explain to them? Is there a story I can read and they can figure out a story problem about? You know, like there wasn't anything that was like an actual lesson to go with it. It was just 2 plus 2 is what? That's basically what it was. And that is just so hard, especially when you have multiple kids in school and you're trying to homeschool all of them at the same time. And you can't just, first of all, you have a lot of prep to do, right? If you don't have scripted lessons, you have a lot of prep because you have to understand and know what to do for each person and if you need to prepare more things. But if you have something that's already scripted, you can just sit down basically with the Good and the Beautiful's curriculum. I rarely have to prepare very much. There's science, maybe a little, like just have a few things on hand, but most of the time I can just sit down, just read it. And that's it, read it, go through the activities, and it's so simple and straightforward. There's not a lot of prep. So you might have lots of prep. Another hard part about having not scripted lessons and multiple kids is having to jump from one person to the other to go help them and not knowing what the heck is going on. It can't be just, oh, my lesson starts here and I'm like, okay, good. And I just start reading it and I'm like, oh, okay, this is what we're talking about. Instead of like, what is going on? I'm trying to like switch my brain without having any sort of guidance whatsoever. And that can be really hard and frustrating as well. Another thing that with the scripted lessons that's super helpful is my kids, once they got to a point where they could read, they could do it mostly themselves. Like there were still parts I had to help, or if they're learning a new principle or whatever, I might need to explain it more to them. But there was a lot of it they could start to do by themselves. And that made my life so much easier, especially right now when I have 4 kids that are in school and 2 little kids that are pains. No, they're not always pains, but they get into a lot of stuff. They get in the way a lot, and we're trying to, navigate all of that. And they're going to be starting school pretty soon too. So I have to shift my attention to helping them because they need more help, versus my older kids that can now be more independent because they have these nice, straightforward, scripted lessons. The third thing might sound a little silly, but I kind of wanted someone to sit there and tell me it was going to be hard, because it is going to be hard. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be hard. Starting homeschooling, continuing homeschooling is going to be hard. The first few years, I wanted to quit so many times. So many times. And it just, things would keep coming up and I didn't know what to do, or I was frustrated, or I was just sick of having my kids around me all the time. Like all these things keep coming up. So one of the things I've observed that is helpful when it does get hard is having a why. And this was something that I personally feel like I had almost straight from the beginning. Otherwise, we would never have started homeschooling in the first place. But I see a lot of people that don't actually have a strong why as to why they're homeschooling, right? They don't really know. They're just like, well, maybe it seems like a good idea, or my kid's struggling, or there's friend things going on at school, or I just don't like the direction that public school is going. All these different things come up and you're like, well, maybe we should try homeschooling, but they don't ever sit down and say, well, why? And what is going to keep me doing it when it gets hard, because it will be so hard. And so I think sitting down and making sure you have an established why right from the beginning, and it's going to adapt and change, but that's going to be so helpful. A lot of people on here probably know our story, but my husband, not my husband, he wasn't in school, but my oldest son started kindergarten. It was a struggle. At the time, we didn't know he was high functioning autistic, and it just was not a great situation. I didn't want to homeschool, but I also didn't want to see my child feel like he was a failure either. And so that became like my driving why as to why we started homeschooling, because I wanted him to feel successful and to feel seen and to feel heard despite his struggles with being autistic. Again, we didn't know that at the time, but that was kind of what drove me at the beginning. And then it kind of builds over the years, like my why for keeping homeschooling, all those types of things. But at the beginning, if you do not have a strong why, when it gets hard and when you don't know what to do, it's going to be very easy to just pull the plug and send your kids back to public school, which sometimes is a good option. But there's a lot of times when maybe that's not really what you want to do, and you just need to push through and understand why you started homeschooling in the first place. The fourth thing I wish we had had when we first started homeschooling was funding. And this is tricky because different states have different options. Some states offer no funding for homeschoolers. Some offer a lot. Some are kind of in the middle, and it's just kind of hard to know exactly what's available. I did hear about a few things when we first started homeschooling in California, but we already knew we were going to be moving. And so I just didn't really look into anything too much, and we were just homeschooling one child. So I didn't feel like it was that big of a deal, but I would have probably told myself to look into it further at that time and to see what options were available. And now here we were a part of one charter for a few years, not too long after we moved here. And then now we're a part of Open Ed, which was previously My Tech High. And they used to only be in just a few states. They're still only in a few states compared to the 50, but they're starting to spread out into a few more states as well. Whereas I have a friend in Texas who wishes that they had really good funding for homeschooling, and they just don't. And she's like, oh, it'd be so nice just to have some extra funds, because then you don't feel as bad. I can't use it to buy the curriculum we like to use because it's considered like Christian curriculum, right? And so I can't use it to buy that, but I can use it for other things. But if you are buying curriculum that isn't Christian based or whatever, non-secular, secular, whatever the term is, I can't think of it right now. But if you are buying that, like, you can try different curriculums and not feel so like, oh my gosh, I don't have a choice. Like, we paid for this curriculum, we have to stick to it. If you have funding, you can try some different ones till you find something that maybe works better for your family and not feel so strapped by the financial constraints of it. And so that's helpful. You can also try different games, manipulatives, go to museums. There's lots of different options that maybe you wouldn't do otherwise. And it just makes more things available to you. And so check out funding. Again, it's hard because it's not equal across the board, right? Just like homeschool requirements are not equal across the board. And so it's kind of interesting, like, I was hesitant to bring it up, but I also think there's probably a lot of homeschoolers that don't know all the funding that's available, because I didn't when I was in California, and when I moved here, didn't know all the things that were available, and they're becoming more available now. There's lots more options than there used to be. So check those things out and just see if there even is an option for your state. The fifth one is going to sound really silly. I asked my friend about this. I was like, what's another thing you wish you had? And she's like, oh, that's a tricky question. And she's like, someone to bring me snacks. And I just started, like someone in charge of just dropping off snacks for homeschool. She's like, that would have been great. And it made me chuckle, and I was like, that's hilarious. And then after a little bit, I thought about it. I was like, wait, she makes a good point though. And it made me think of like grocery pickup and stuff like that, because that's not something I utilized when we first started homeschooling. It was just starting to become popular, and obviously some of them you used to have to pay for more, and then COVID happened and a lot of them made them free, and then some of them now have some fees, and if you want them delivered, there's minimal fees. They're not huge. Most of them aren't huge expenses. But I remember grocery shopping I hated it. Like, I had 4 kids that were 5 and under. And it was a lot of work to go to this grocery store. And it usually was like a whole morning event. When we were in Connecticut, when we lived in California, it was just a whole thing. And it was just a lot. And my husband was in school, and then he was working, and he didn't really have options to take time off there. And so it was just really, it was a lot to go to the store with all of them. And like I said, it ended up being super long. And if your stores are further away, or if like your Costco or Sam's Club or whatever is further away, it's going to take even longer. And it's just a whole thing. And yes, sometimes it is nice to browse and shop, but when you have screaming kids or a baby that's hungry and you need to nurse and like all these different things, I'm like, this is just a lot of stress. And so during COVID, when like at the beginning, I was like, oh, I should try grocery pickup. I had never tried it before. And we did it, and I won't go back. unless they make me. No. Because it's just so easy. I just can meal plan at home, order everything. I can see how much it costs right there. So it also helps with budgeting. It's helped me so much with like our meal plan, like our grocery budget, because I can see it, everything, and be like, oh, do we really need this thing, or do we have enough of this thing? And I can just get rid of it if we don't. And instead of being, again, in the cart with a whole bunch of kids, some of them are screaming, some of them are running through the store, and I'm trying to like go through my list and don't know exactly how much everything's gonna cost, because I'm not gonna sit there and add it up while my kids are going crazy in the store. So it just alleviated a lot of stress for me as a homeschool mom, because taking that off, like I could make time to go to the grocery store, but I could also use that time for so many other things. And it just was so helpful for me. So I love Walmart and I love Sam's Club, because Sam's Club also has grocery pickup. There's also, Instacart if you want to, there's minimal fees for some of these, and then tips, but again, you trade off time versus money. So everything has a cost, whether it's your time or your money. There's Walmart Plus, for delivery as well. We haven't done that. Occasionally I have Sam's Club deliver, but that's only if we're super busy, or like last year when I had ankle surgery and it was hard for me to just get out of the house, I had stuff delivered. So it helps so much. Another thing that kind of fits into this category is maybe having a house cleaner or a house helper. We've never had either of those, but I've seen other people, even if it's just once a month, for like a house cleaner to come in and do deep cleaning for you. It takes something off your schedule. You don't have to worry about it anymore, and you can focus more of your time on your kids or just time for you, since as homeschool moms, so much of our time is spent focusing on our kids, like all of the time. And so having a few moments where you don't have to be up cleaning because it hasn't been done in months, and let someone else do it, you could read a book or do a craft or go hang out with a friend or something. You could do something else. And so I'm not saying go spend tons and tons of money. Like I said, some of these resources are already free. And then some of them cost minimal amounts, especially with house cleaning. If you're only doing it once a month or something like that, it could be just a great bang for your buck. All right, so those are 5 things I wish I had when I first started homeschooling. Put down in the comments something you wish you had, or if you are just starting homeschooling, put down now what you wish you could know about. Maybe you have questions, because that helps me to think through like, oh, what would I do about this? Or what did I do about that? And then I can help create more videos and content. And also other people can help in the comments and respond to some of your questions. And remember to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.